over a period of time, we've been only talking about our Sobit and Sundar Goy. And we wish to kind of continue with this Sobit and Sundar Goy in the future. So when we thought about what would be the theme that we want to talk about, a student of mine got back and said, so you're really looking at ease of doing business because it's a fancy term and everybody wants to probably look at only ease of doing business. It catches very well. So the point I wish to make here is that we are not talking about ease of doing business, because ease of doing business is a very narrow matrix. It's a structured narrow matrix. We are going to be talking about something beyond that. And so that is the objective. The objective is basically try and figure out why are we living in a dichotomic society. Probably dichotomic might not be such a very good word to talk about, but I think in academics we've got something called as a counterintuitive society. And why do I say it's a counterintuitive society? Let's just get some few things on this. Goa, it is the smallest, one of the smallest standalone state in the nation. Small is beautiful from an administration and management perspective. It has got the lowest population. Goa has got one of the highest literacy rates. Goa is a state with one of the highest digital penetration and one of the highest per capita usage of internet and smartphones. Goa is a state that has got the highest per capita NSDP, which basically takes us to the next point, that Goa is one of those few states in the country who have got a very small percentage of its population living below poverty line. Goa is a place which is most sought after tourist destination internationally. Goa is a very important state because according to records, we have got the least crime rates. Goa is the only state which probably has got the highest number of industrial estates per million in the entire country. Goa, ladies and gentlemen, is the only state, or rather one of those few states, which has got a very high human development index, what we call as Bhangrare Goy. But then, the thought that comes is, why this debate? Why this panel discussion? The panel discussion because this beautiful Goa is one of those states with highest rate of unemployment. This Sobit and Sundar Goy of ours is a state with highest, as Audit Bab just spoke about, we are a state with highest per capita debt burden on our heads. And we are one of those states which, our Bhangrare Goy, as I just called it, is one of those few states which has been continuously slipping on ease of doing business index, in spite of the fact that on a world arena, as a country, we are climbing up, which simply means statistically we are negatively correlated to India's ease of doing business. And therefore, it was extremely important that we discuss this counterintuitiveness that exists in our society. So we started thinking, we started deliberating on this, and we started believing who is going to talk about it? Who else could it be? We thought that first we need to look at the industry leaders. And what are those? President of Goa Chamber of Commerce and Industry. A person who has seen Goa pre-liberation, post-liberation. A person who is soft-spoken but extremely assertive. He does not mince his words while he makes his point very clear. And he, ladies and gentlemen, is the leader of Goan industry as a president of Goa Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Who else could it be but a person who is very important, maybe right now sitting on a very hot seat though, but a very important person for Goa, because Goan economy today depends entirely on his industry because of mining closure. We have nothing else but to fall back on but tourism. So who else could it be to begin this whole discussion but the president, sorry, of TTAG Goa, Mr. Nilesh Shah? Who else could it be but a person who contributes to almost, or whose sector contributes to a huge quantum to Goa, India's GDP and India's exports? People, it's his sector which basically represents the aspiration, the enthusiasm, and more importantly, this whole willingness to do business, and that's medium and small enterprises. And who else could it be but the president of JSIA, Mr. Vishwanath alias Damodar Kochkar? Who else could it be but a person who would represent probably most of those people sitting at the back, as Audit Bab called them, backbenchers? Because these are people who basically are looking at life with optimism, hope. They want to look at future. And when they see someone like Mr. Prajot Mainkar, there is a great deal of optimism and hope that gets kindled in the mind. Because he is one person who left everything possible that's lucrative, that you can envisage, and has started or banked upon entrepreneurship. Somebody who would represent this whole startup ecosystem. But then, this would just be one side of the coin. We also needed people who create this environment. We needed people who create this foundation where all these people sitting with me can flourish. Somebody who creates this conducive business environment for people to do their business. Do they provide it or do they not provide it? Are they effective in it or are they not effective in it? Is it efficient or not efficient? Who else could say this but somebody who manages it? The Director of Industries, Trade and Commerce, Government of Goa, Ma'am Swetika. And these are all my disparate verticals which I need to weave like a garland. And this garland has to then be put across on our beautiful Goa, because then we can get up and say that Goa is just not sought after tourist destination, but Goa is most sought after business destination. And this responsibility world across is being done by academics. And therefore, it was extremely pertinent that we had a representation from somebody from academics. And who else could it be but the genius of details, as we call her, Professor Purva Hegde Desai.
I represent Goa Chamber of Commerce and Industry, a 114-year-old institution, which is the apex institution in Goa. Besides industry, it deals with a lot of other things as well, including education and health and wellness. Is it easy to do business in Goa? This suggests that there are some things to be done. The title itself. Let me start by telling you all why ease of doing business is important. I would say there are three aspects. One is ease of doing business attracts industry. And industry brings in prosperity in the state. It also brings in the create employments, which are very, very important. And in the third instance, it creates revenues for the government. And without these revenues, the government cannot run the state of Goa. And how do these three crucial aspects meet? When for the people who are responsible for bringing in the revenues, their life is made easier. So it is very important that we attract the right types of investments for the prosperity of Goa. Now, how do we do this? Goa does not only compete with the neighboring states, it competes with the rest of the country to attract investments. Today, you all know that the world is trying to give China a miss. And quite a few countries are looking at India. So the world is a stage for Goa. But how do we, forget the world, how do we start moving out and getting investments from our neighboring states, then India, and then the world? It is not by thinking and doing whatever we think is good, but we have to be one up on our competition. We have states in India like Telangana, Andhra, Gujarat, and now UP, who, if they get a whiff of an investor, they go hunting for him. They go to the state, they fly down, they meet him, and they say, why don't you come over? Within 1 week, we'll give you licenses, and next week you can start your business. Now, if we want to create ease of doing business, we have to be one up on these guys. Whatever we are doing, whatever we have done is great, but we have to see whether that's enough to beat these guys in competition and bring prosperity to the state of Goa. Moving forward, I'll briefly talk about a couple of things that are creating a huge hurdle. One is the delays in clearances and licensing, followed by multiplicity of licensing. And this again is followed by the tenure of these permissions and licenses. I'll talk a little bit for 2 minutes on this. The faster you get your work done as far as your permissions and licenses are concerned, the faster you can start your business. And faster the prosperity comes to the country, to your state. Multiplicity of licenses. Sometimes there are so many departments that you have to go to, and this becomes a nightmare. You go to the most important one and they give a notification to this 14, 15. We have already given the permission, you all are free to collect taxes and revenues. That's fine. This would make easier for the people. Then we have the tenure of licenses which I spoke. Take the example of your Shops and Establishment Act. Every year you have to apply for that. It can be one-time license. Why every year apply for it? Take the tourism license. It has a tenure of 1 year, but central license has 5 years. Every April we give a license for renewal. I get the license back in the month of March, and in the month of April I give it again to the government for renewal. The entire government machinery is busy renewing thousands and thousands of licenses which mean nothing. What an expense to the government. What a waste of man-hour. What a waste of talent. So this again complicates the matters terribly. And you have to go to each of these authorities. And most of them have no role to play. So if this is sorted out, this will bring you the ease of doing business to a great extent. The tenure, the multiplicity, and quick licenses to start a business.
Ma'am Swatika.
Why are rankings the data? Data is important. We had slipped from 19th, which was, I think, the first assessment based on a certain action plan given by the central government. We were 19th, then we slipped to 24th. We slipped to 24th because also the evaluation methodology was very drastically, I would say, changed. So in the earlier instance, we were accounted for the number of points we could actually implement and give evidence of, And the second time, user feedback, the beneficiary, the end user feedback was also made a part of the methodology. Now, it's very apparent. I would not, just say call the elephant, So people had a lot of grievances. They wanted to vent out, and hence our ranking had slipped. Now, in this last, this EODB action plan that was given to us, the criteria for evaluation is 100% user feedback, 100%. It can go both ways. I am quite scared myself. Let us see that we slip further, what other states are doing. And it's very comparative. What other states are doing, are they doing a little better? Yes, a lot of them are. Let's accept that. So the question, I think, should be, there cannot be an absolute answer to it, yes, no, because doing business, again, it is a continuous process, and our efforts also then need to be continuous. Has it become easier to do business? what time frame should we take? Probably, if we take a longer time frame, maybe it appears that it has become more difficult. But in the past 1 or 2 years, we should ask this to ourselves that has it become slightly easier, you know? And I think it has. I also personally believe that the more open we become, the more open door policy we give the access to our critics to come to us, we feel that, you know, things are more negative. But this negativity is good because then it churns some positivity, you know, it pushes us to take some action. So, and the second question I think, which again I'll come back to after my presentation is, will it become easier to do business in Goa? You know, and I'm telling you, there's nothing like, there's no ceiling there, you know. As long as we can continue to saturate, you know, taking initiatives, becoming more facilitative, less regulatory, you know. Then, pehle license Raj wali baat aayi thi, and then 91 we ended that, and then our economy opened. So now we became regulatory, and now we say we just have to be facilitative, reduce our rules. Now, when we actually, I totally agree to the point that government needs to reduce their presence, their roles as much as possible, bring in professional efficiency. You know, hire less people, you know, downsize the government size, and whoever is working, pay them more. You know, what initiative do I really have? You know, I have a puny salary to work on, and that is important. Some of it is my personal opinion. Please do not quote me on that. My official opinion is exactly written there. So yeah, but yet, because I've come in an academic kind of environment, I would want to, you know, be open about, candid about what needs to be done. What we've been doing is providing facilitation. So we started with a very basic in-principle approval kind of a letter. People come to us a certain size of investments. They come to us, we give them an in-principle approval. It becomes slightly easier for them to take this letter and show, okay, we are an IPB project, and they approach different organizations and bodies, and then it becomes slightly easier, you know, in comparison to a project which has not come through IPB. So that facilitation we've been doing, a little bit of aftercare after. You know, you take the in-principle approval, we do write letters to different organizations, asking them to expedite certain NOCs, clearances, talking to them, understanding what documents need to be submitted, and we've been doing that through our investment officers and, you know, consultants. We also do provide the service of giving an investment promotion area declaration for a private land, which does not have a restrictive zoning as per our Act or TCP Act. And there we receive proposal, we evaluate them, and then we accordingly give zonation. However, this IPA in itself, you know, it is not self-sufficient, and other processes like sanat conversion, etc., need to be obtained. So, and then again, ease of doing business, which is the buzzword today. IPB has been tasked with looking after what the central government asks us to do. Now, here I have a point, you know, what we further need to elaborate. Ease of doing business, according to the central government, would be making certain services online, you know, but not probably re-engineering processes, you know. So I have written, you know, and simplification of application process, eliminating what is unnecessary. So at some levels, they are a bit restrictive. So it leaves a lot of scope for us in EODB to go beyond, going beyond the BRAP. But yes, there is a very, very urgent need to build a system which is independent of individuals. This is, again, my personal.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
President TTAG, Mr. Nilesh Shah.
On ease of doing business, I think center has taken a lead, but I think Goa, we are lacking quite behind on this. In center, if you see, if you want to apply for your GST, it can be done very quickly. If you want to do the income tax, they are coming out with faceless assessment. There are many things which center is doing, which state is not doing. I think we have to take a lead from there and take it forward on ease of doing business. In Goa, the challenges are plenty. Unfortunately, all permissions, everything, many times it is linked to the land because it is being a small state. So the availability of the land always, you know, that becomes the crux of when the permissions are being sorted or any industry wants to come. If the land is not available, I think they have been denied. So we have to come out with the idea wherein which industry suits us and how we can take it forward. Now as far as tourism is concerned, you have many verticals. Now the verticals which One of the verticals is if you want to open up a hotel. I think Ralph Babi's a favorite analysis on that. You require 24 licenses. So, these licenses are plenty. And by the time you gather and everything, I think a lot of time is lost, money is lost. And ultimately, state has to realize that ultimately revenue is lost by the government. Because the earlier you start the business, the government will start getting the revenue. It may be form of GST or income tax or any other license fees. We have a bright new breed of IS officers. Of course, Sachin's there. And we had, as a president, I had a good thing to interact with them for last 2 years as a president. And what I find that, they are also, they want to perform. So one of the ideas which recently when I was talking to, he says that we require police-less state to start with in Panjim. The problem what happens is when we talk about the ease of doing business, if anybody wants to say start any business in Goa, suppose in tourism related, if he wants to hire start a taxi thing or even the hiring a rent bike, the police have been stopped every time, they are on the road, tourists are stopped. And, then becomes the different thing. So we require wherein there is more of the vigilance is done in their offices by putting on the cameras which are already there. I hope they start working in around Panjim, and rather than, trying to harass tourists or people who are doing that business. Because the violations needs to be taken care of, but then I think there has to be particular way of following the procedural act, this thing. As far as overall, like if you want to do any wedding in Goa, beach wedding, the permissions you require are huge, and the fees also goes very high. So even when we are talking ease of doing business, I think there are two things. Even the fees has to be rational, because problem what happens if anything is overcharged or which is takes lot of time, people try to do illegalities. Now, if you see in Goa, we talk always about there are a lot of so many illegal hotels, restaurants in Goa. Why are they? Illegal means they are not registered with the authorities. Now, authorities' job is to collect their part of license fees or revenue. But the permission itself takes a lot of time. So people prefer not to register and just do business without obtaining certain licenses. And ultimately, the state loses the revenue. So government needs to realize that, they have to actually doing the ease of doing business, the revenues will go up. So the one thing which I think the management school has to put in that by doing ease of doing business, the actual sense the revenues will go up of the state, which, which I think government will understand more apt than anything else. Another thing which I find, there is when we are talking ease of doing business, there is interdepartmental, so many hassles are there within government, which prolongs the permissions, and ultimately it is a failure.
Dynamic, Damodar Kochkar.
Our state of industry in Goa is like we are on a, I don't know, people might have seen people are brought to the casualty, after an accident. And there are multiple things that has happened to that person. Some bone is broken, somebody has gone. So you cannot diagnose what is the problem. So usually in casualty, what they do, they see first what are the vital organs which are damaged. So they take care of that first. We can see that his leg is broken. We said to doctor, you attend to that first. But they are saying, no, his heart has to function first. And then his liver has to function. Then only we'll look at the, fracture part. So maybe 2-3 days he is stabilized and then the fracture is taken. We are in such a state that we don't know what is hitting and what is happening to the business. Everywhere we are fractured, our body are in such a dilapidated state, and it's not only the body, the external situation also needs to be, conducive for us to function. Now this is a very problematic stage. So what happens, whenever there is certain disease which is more, like it will take your life, like cancer, like what he said. I have been struggling about that power. Now, these things are the main thing for industry to function. It's like oxygen. If we don't have a power or a maybe water, basic infrastructure, then we collapse. So first, whatever maybe later on what Swetika ma'am said, that the rules, regulation, everything. So we first fight at this portion. This is like we are on a firefighting kind of a situation. It's a business. So when we come to know about what is this ease of doing business, now we have to say how we overcome this issue. Now Audit was saying that, he predicted that 91 it was here. The situation can go little more difficult also. And usually I don't like the prediction to be made about future, because we are human beings. If we decide today that we want to change a situation, there is a possibility. So if everyone decides here that we need a change, and everybody speaks about that change vocally in public platform and everybody without a fear, then this change is bound to happen. Because ultimately what thought process everybody has, ultimately will come to reality. So if we want a right atmosphere in Goa, then all of us have to work towards it. All of us has to be very vocal about what we want. And it's not that nobody knows what needs to be done. Everybody knows what needs to be done, and everybody is not ready to do because they fear, I have my business, if I talk openly, what will happen to my business? They will try to, pinpoint me and go against me. But few people has to raise about this and talk about this openly if we want to have a change in this situation in Goa.
May I please request Prajot sir to please put up your thoughts.
I'm going to talk about a couple of segments here. My journey in terms of startup, because my expertise comes from startups. Let's talk about pre-IT and startup policy and post-IT and startup policy. I was part of the making of the IT and startup policy. Before pandemic, we had one of the beautiful clause there, IT anywhere. IT enabled services is one of the fields that you don't need anything except for power and internet. The place in material. Just to give you a stats, to addition to what you said, Professor Borde, Goa has a great connectivity to the panchayats. We have a great per capita income as well. And the startups in Goa are more than 200 plus active startups. Now they are not just in IT, ITES. I see many of them in travel and tourism sector as well. So IT has gone into different fields. So what are the challenges which startup face here? Before I was coming to this conference, couple of them, because I was, as I mentioned, part of the policy making, someone texted me RTO question mark. So what he intended to say is the paperwork that happens at RTO is pretty much, right? And the case that you must have seen probably on the television as well. Can IT help here? Yes. Can the problem solution is easier? Yes. Are there companies in Goa can do this? Yes. I really like the case of the power that came in the paper. Despite of all the odds, you went and got the work done. I am from the side where I believe that Goa and Goans can make a difference. Yes, there would be a resistance. The companies here have been there, they've been working and doing fabulous work. The change has to happen within. Now, there was this, a myth that we consider Goa not to compare with Bangalore. Do compare. Silicon Valley is not a place to me. It's a vision. You can have Silicon Valley set up anywhere. And that is what we need to believe. It's not about a place. Silicon Valley, I've been to Silicon Valley a number of times. It's the vibe of people that drive the synergy. It is not the place. You can have Bangalore also as a Silicon Valley, it is a Silicon Valley of India. Goa can be. What you need is a couple of things. One is your business need to make money. And it needs to have a direction. I see a lot of trend of startups, and this is in particular with startups. Startups are raising money, then building money. There is this hype of looking out for investors. Is your idea good? Is there is focus? These are the preliminary questions you need to ask. And this is where the focus comes into place. And this is what I have seen. And the second thing that probably is a huge impact factor is this concept of dropout entrepreneurs. I personally value education. I think the education plays a very important case in disrupting the industry. And I believe that the change in education can make a changes in business, because the education level, and since we are at the conference which includes a lot of visionaries out here, I believe and truly believe that the segment that needs a disruption is education. Because there's a huge disconnect with what industry wants and what education level teaching that happens. And no disrespect to anyone over here. And obviously, one other suggestion and to lot of budding entrepreneurs is look at local visionaries. We have eminent panelists over here, and we have many entrepreneurs part of this conclave. How to get in touch with them? We need local mentors before you envision people out of borders. There's a lot of tendency, can you connect with me, someone in Mumbai? I say, why? We have many business people. I mean, just look around, you will find so many of them. Look out for local mentors, advisors, and I think that will make a huge impact. And I think the associations such as Goa Chamber of Commerce, Goa Management Association, they've been doing wonderful work in Goa. The connection and how to reach is the challenge, right? So if you bypass that, I think there is no problems in Goa. Yes, in particular with IT and IT-enabled services, people are doing it. Yes, there would be struggles that will come along, whether it is government or whatsoever, but the change should happen within. You can approach, I think we have a classic case of the power, I think that made a huge impact. So if it is possible, I think with the help of association, I think changes can happen.
The last panelist that we have, Professor Purva.
The flow is quality of life in Goa, roles of government, what is expected and what's happening. And thirdly, principles of good governance. How should we judge or evaluate the government functioning? My colleague, Professor Nilesh, has already spoken much on this. This is just numbers to substantiate what he said. We are great on literacy. We are great on all parameters like Human Development Index, our national per capita income, GDP, great, highest. But will this sustain? Will our next generations also have this quality of life? That is our concern as academicians, because the two figures in red really do not substantiate that it will sustain in future. Number one, unemployment rate, one of the highest. So the generation has got a lot of unemployment. Couple it with low ease of doing business. No entrepreneurships, no jobs. So will this quality of life sustain in Goa? That's the figures tell us to worry about. So what's the roles of government in our economy? If we see, the literature says there are 6 roles. I don't quote authors here because of time limits. Operator, infrastructure provision, investment stimulator, financial incentives, promoters, promotion of Goa in international markets, regulator, giving us regulations, coordinator, single window is being spoken about, and of course, where we are, educator. Please proceed. Now I really feel honored to second something which our chief guest, Audit has been saying. That is, for every rupee earned, about 37% is already going in government salaries. It is government aplenty today. And I also second his other point with figures. 13% is going towards debt servicing. Now, problem is not that only 28% is remaining for development works. The bigger problem, as we see, already spoken about, I'm just seconding it, youth are only asking for government jobs. Entrepreneurship spirit is lost. Industry is then importing labor and gets critiqued because they bring bile. Just a minute. I'm just comparing this with MSME policy of one of the states that I went through. That was Tamil Nadu's MSME policy 2021. It starts with things like think MSME, foster the culture of MSME, strengthen ease of doing business, innovations. These are the starting, sentences, starting bullet points of the states which are endeavoring to be, which are already more industrially forward and endeavoring to bring in more investments. Now, it's not that we don't have policies. There are policies galore, but we find the figures are telling that at national level as well as at state level, there is underutilizations. The funds, if you see plan allocation, 213 crores, revised estimate after 6 months bring down to 174 crores, actual usage 136 crores. Next, our state government, Honorable CM Dr. Pramod Sawant is appealing 12% funds for tribal welfare are unutilized. Please come forward. So the problem as we see it is information asymmetry. The funds are not reaching the needy. As regards the other things, we have ma'am speaking about the investment promotion board, etc. There, all that I read is will be. For example, being a finance person, I'm interested in one of the things that came about their ventures fund. Is it there? No, okay. So, single window, a lot of it has been spoken, so I leave this alone. And we see that here ease of doing business is just a subset of all these roles. And there's a lot of academic critique about it, that it is taken from only one of the most industrialized cities, the data is taken and the ease of business is ranked country-wise. And these kind of criticisms are there. But my own heartfelt criticism, you need to conclude. Yeah. Okay, I'll stop at this slide, is that we are just left out in this. Education is nowhere to be seen, whereas we can pitch in as incubators, as coordinators like this, as conducting lots of studies like skill gap studies.
Does Goa really have a problem of scarcity when you talk about it in terms of resources? Or do we have a problem of plenty? And is it therefore kind of causing some sort of complacency both in government as well as in industry? So I want to start off with you, Raj sir, because you have been following Goan industry for a very long time. I want to know this. Do you believe that there has been some sort of a problem in the way Goa has Goa actually strategically designed its kind of investment that you need in Goa, or it has been just ad hoc? You come, you get a time and you start a business. Is that how it has been, or has there been any strategic intent that has gone in terms of what kind of industries do you need?
Well, see, the investment in Goa initiated with mining. Before mining, there was absolutely nothing in Goa. It started somewhere around 1945. And the entire burden of the prosperity and the employment as well as the progress was shouldered by mining. There was only a matchbox factory first, which came in 1956 in Ponda. Then was a tire remolding factory, nothing that ever came. So this was because of God-given resources, and there were prospectors who came from Europe, they discovered, and enterprising Goans went ahead. Then came the tourism. This tourism also came because of a God-given gift. That is the beauty of Goa, natural beauty, as well as it was a clean and a safe destination. The people of Goa, the hospitable people of Goa, mixed cultures and a cuisine. This brought in people. It was not planned. And we were again benefactors of a default. The charters used to go to Ceylon and to Kathmandu. Both the places there was strife. The LTT over here and political turmoil in Nepal. So, one of the gentlemen, Philippe Odiva, he was from Intasan. He was here on a holiday. He said, why not Goa? That's how the plane started flying to Goa. And the Goans actually showed their spirit of enterprise because there was no infrastructure. There was nothing. There was not even Department of Tourism. There was of information and tourism. Now it became tourism. And all the infrastructure was done by the Goans. It was unplanned, but highly successful. Well, then we started planning when the industrial estates and all came to town. We had tried to bring in industry which was suitable for Goa. There was a good beginning when EDC was established. And what EDC did, it is a bank of, Industrial Bank of Goa. First, when it pioneered, it brought in investments. There were only professionals there working, and they brought in a lot of industry, a lot of investments. So, after that, Goa just became an attractive place, but nothing much was planned. But now we are talking about suitable industry like IT, non-polluting industry. That's what is doing the rounds. But Goa got things, mostly the big boys came, it was given in a platter to Goa. There were few large-scale industries that came, like MRF and Zuaris. Besides that, we have small and medium, and well, that's where the Goan enterprise came forward. Most of these industries are owned and run by the Goans.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. But I want to come to you, Swetika ma'am, on this, where we've kind of, even there is a lot of research that's happening at Goa University, which is showing that a lot of these decisions that have been taken at governmental levels have been very ad hoc. And as he said, it just happened by the way. It really did not have a very strategic intent. There was no great audit that was happening. Do you believe that time is changing now and that government is really, especially because you're a person who is also in charge of investment promotion board, is there some sort of an audit that's happening in terms of how do we call industries, what kind of industries are required?
So yeah, like you said that initially, I mean, Mr. D'Souza has laid out how things happened. And I think the only striking example of trying to bring in a certain sector had been the pharma case, where we did give certain incentives for a short period and help them to ground, and that is how that gained traction, and now it's just happening by itself and growing and actually contributing to the state and the national GTB in that sense, and also contributing to a lot of exports. So after that, I don't see, personally I have not gone through everything, all policy decisions, however, yes, when IPB was formulated, a certain thrust to make it easier for important projects that the state wants. So they established that. Apart from that, no concerted, I feel that, at policy level, the export strategy is the only document which lays out the sectors, the important sectors, and this strategy was done with few. So, Federation of Indian Export and Organization, we have done that study with them. We have published that study. It is a notified document. Major sectors, light engineering, marine, agro-processing, fishery and marines, agro-processing, IT, tourism. They have been made of focus sectors. It does talk about it also very, in a very detailed manner, does the need, gap analysis, what is needed to promote that particular sector, what the government needs to do in terms of infrastructure, in terms of policy, in terms of any other issues faced by that particular, business community. So that has been one of the things. And however, for Goa also, I feel that a lot of stress on the environment sustainability and keeping Goa the way it is has also driven, in a way, probably put a lot of thrust on tourism and ecotourism and that kind of greener kind of industrial setup. We were not able to target industries which was considered polluting. Even today, Goa is not. So
Swetika ma'am, what you are trying to effectively say is that today the government is taking more of a strategic viewpoint in terms of what kind of industries need to be brought in, yes, right? Yes. Let's go back to Nilesh sir. I mean, you've been talking about tourism and you've been saying that this is what is happening. Ma'am is saying that there is a lot of strategization that's happening. I see a lot of strategy being used, but I'm not sure if that strategy is correct. For example, people want to come to Goa because they want to feel the sand. Right? But here we are on Miramar Beach building concrete roads. I mean, on a sand, you're creating a concrete road, putting up beautiful lights. Do you believe that Goa can actually compete with marine lines in terms of concrete roads? Or do you think that tourism is best suited when you have a beautiful sand which you can feel on your feet?
If you see, Goa has prospered tourism on its own, wherein the people have discovered right from hippie days in 70s. And what we are saying is day by day, when we are talking about development in say tourism, we are talking more about concretization, which is a downfall. Best thing is to leave it to the people in the vicinity, what type of tourism they want in that area. And the government's role should be on the giving the infrastructure what is required and not because they want to give that infrastructure. I'll give you the example. We are talking about this hinterland tourism and ecotourism. So whenever those discussions came in, we were talking about giving the, promoting the village for ecotourism. So the idea was that it should be done if people in that village wants. And do they have that, what is the carrying capacity there? What are the activities they are going to give there? It should not be because government wants to do it. Because if they try doing that in today's world in Goa, or for that matter anywhere, it will fail miserably. So it has to be, you give the information to particular village or panchayats there that these are the activities, these are the facilities which government has come out with, and give them the,
Nilesh,
the
I'm sorry,
infrastructure.
Nilesh, I'll just disturb you 1 minute in this. I'd like to play a vamp in a typical Saas Bahu role, you know, serials that you have on a television. I want to try and ask you this question. Do you believe that your industry counterparts are also responsible in some way in pulling the tourism down? I mean, with due respect, if you actually go and stand outside the Dempo House, I mean, I've been saying this off and on various platforms. I go and stand outside the Dempo House in market purely to see how vulgar has Goa become over a period of time. And it's actually exponentially growing. And just look on the other side. It's vulgar. It's completely butchered. You only see concrete jungle there. So do you believe that somewhere, you know, tourism industry and real estate industry somewhere come at a crossroad?
As I told you, in Goa, when we talk permission, everything starts with the land availability. And way the Goa, way it is turned out, and with this COVID around again, most preferred destination, if there's one study which is done, of a second home in India is Goa. So with that type of demography and that type of demand, automatically the more and more people wants to come to Goa and have a second home. So I don't know how we can, you know, try to figure out this issue to be settled. Maybe I think that in Himachal Pradesh, I think outsiders they have the restrictions or something like that required, because we ourselves, Goans, have started selling the lands to the outsiders, and that's how they're coming in. And it's ultimately more demand coming in. And if you see in last 1 year, the price of the houses in Goa have gone skyrocketed because people have realized they want to make it second home. So that is one aspect.
But Nilesh, very candid, with hands on your heart, do you really believe that this is going to affect tourism negatively?
Absolutely, it will affect tourism. What we are talking about when they buy this second home and all those things, what will happen is we'll have on the people coming and staying in those houses, means they will rent it out, or, you know, they will and we'll not have a lot of channelized business happening anymore. So we have now more of villa concept, more of people, and therein where what it's talking about illegal tourism coming in, which are not registered. So there has to be more and more awareness on this part, because ultimately it will affect the established players and it will be deterrent for new players to come in the business.
Oh, well taken. Sir, coming to you, I mean, you know, you have been very vibrant, dynamic, absolutely enthusiastic in taking up this whole issues of industry. But as an academician, sir, I have a very important question to ask you. A place like Goa, which is a very, very small place, 24 industrial estates? I've never heard of this. I mean, you know, if you look at number of industrial estates per million, you're talking about almost 16 industrial estates per million. I've never heard of this before. I mean, how come do you have, what is this?
Yeah, so what you said rightly, see, and also these people were talking about, there is no planning that is being done in Goa, okay? Now, when we talk about why people come to Goa, as they were saying, in 70s the hippies were coming. What was the main thing why people used to come to Goa is basically because of the natural beauty. You know, how the sands are there, how the trees around are there and all. Now, if you see for last 10 to 15 years, if you go across highway, everything is concretized. There has to be certain planning that needs to be done. See, I am maybe representing the industry, but the question what you asked is 23 industrial estates. Now, if you see other industrial estates, except Varna and Kunai, all industrial estates are very small in the area wise, and they are basically planned in a rural area so that certain, employment generation is done. If you see Kakoda and all. But there is not much growth in this area. If you see Kankon is like almost dead. Only Varna.
So just to interrupt you, would you be keen in suggesting the government close down a few and release the land?
I would not say like that. See,
No?
we have to balance, There has to be some economic part. Now, if you spoil the culture and the topography of Goa, tourism will come down, Now, third thing, economic thing is only left is the industry. Now, if you build up the industry in a controlled manner, now you are saying that on 23, I would say not to go beyond it, but wherever the place is there, you utilize it to the fullest. That kind of focus thought is not there. See, what we are talking about is a double engine. We are not concentrating about the revenue generation. We are only talking about borrowing money and running the show. And we are basically depending on the second engine to drag us out of this. It is how long the second engine will drag. So we have to think in that line in which we built up the economy to sustain this population. See, Goa's population has not increased if you see the census.
Correct.
But the people who have migrated from outside, that is also again a load to the Goan economy.
Before I go to Projot, I think I want to ask this to Ralph sir. Ralph sir, is industry somewhere responsible for this? Where you guys actually started off industry without considering or keeping in mind the kind of skill sets that were available in Goa, and you all just kept getting or allowing the industries to come in without giving a proper direction or channelize this whole thing to the government. And because of which, as for example, we talked about Zuari, we talked about MRF. I mean, in my wildest stretch of imagination today, with the increasing literacy rate and the educational standards and the kind of degrees people are getting, do you believe that they would actually go and work into this kind of industries? You would not get labor there. Unskilled labor is not something that Goa can provide. Can you actually think about getting industries that employ only unskilled labor?
Well, if you go to see, these industries came up about 40 years ago. And during that time, we did have a lot of labor. A lot of people who were not highly educated and who required jobs. This happened a long time ago. And that time, Goa needed something to tick. Take mining again. All our laborers were local when mining started. All the local tribes, they used to work as mining labor. And later on, during expansion, we got some people from outside state. It all started after mechanization of your Mama Goa harbor. It was all hand-loaded, the huge steamers loaded by hand. We had a lot of labor that was brought for that. Otherwise, there was only local labor that was utilized. So we are going back 40 to 50 years now as far as when the 3 or 4 large industries came. After that, things change. As Ms. Sachin said about pharma, we had colleges here. Pharmacy College Goa was the first one to have. We had a lot of food technology courses in IITs, ITIs. Unfortunately, those guys have closed that and we are trying to reopen it. So people were available here. And they were available and they went into the sectors. But eventually there was out immigration. Out immigration to such an extent that today we are a minority in Goa. Then came super education. After doing a graduation and post-graduation, one became choosy about the jobs. Status came into play. So, the gaps that were filled by semi-skilled labor and the others, there was a huge gap there because of education. So again, we had to fill that up. We had to get labor from outside the state. So it wasn't exactly that the cart was put before the horse. It was that when things started, they were okay. Things changed later on. And one of the prices, education, which is a fantastic thing that happened. Unfortunately, on the tail end, the things didn't turn out the way they should have.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking you this is because when you do not have those job opportunities and you kind of keep getting those industries which are not conducive, you tend to have a lot of social criticism or social obstacles that keep getting caused. And then you kind of come to a level where you get up and say, oh, it's not easy doing business in Goa. So I'm looking at it more from that angle. So if we had to think about getting industries that were more suitable to Goan skill sets that were available, I thought it would have been much easier.
This is again what we talk about, a gap between what is produced by the industrial educational institution and what is the need of the industry. So there is always this gap that we said, and this gap will continue. What is suitable for Goan? Unfortunately, today Goans want government jobs. Let me tell you that straight away. I need people, very difficult to get locals, because their first preference is government job. And if hospitality flourished, because of the locals.
Ralph sir, again, let me play a devil's advocate here. Probably you're not getting Goan people because I have a feeling that there is also critique about Goan industry which says you want to employ people at 12,000 rupees a month.
No, it's not.
No, I'm just asking you because this is something that people talk about. So Goan industry probably is critiqued from the point of view of that you pay peanuts, and if you pay peanuts, you'll only get monkeys to work for you.
No. The first preference is going abroad. Let me tell you that. And secondly, as far as salaries are concerned, if first 3 years might be difficult, then the entrepreneur, he needs to have his core team placed together.
Okay.
And believe me, these guys are pampered. I do that. If I lose these guys, I collapse. So you have to be skillful enough to enter this core team. And it's not very difficult. Huh? The standards are not very high.
Okay.
You have to be somebody skilled on the job and know your job. Automatically go up.
Okay. Kochkar sir, you wanted to make a point on this?
Yeah, see, when you say that, see, we don't employ the locals and all. See,
No, I didn't say that.
Yeah,
I'm saying the salaries paid are not commensurate. And that's the reason why probably Goans don't want to...
No, I don't agree to that.
Okay.
Because, see, industry would prefer Goans to be employed because they stay nearby. There is no people living across, leaving the job and going elsewhere if we have a Goan. Because I have my people right from the starting of the industry till now they are working because they are locals. Other people went away after 4 or 5 years. So it's not that that we don't want, but what happens, their priority in Goa at different levels. I would say that white collar job, low level jobs and all is different. See, when people work in Goa, their priority is different. They get food, everything at home. So they are not that serious about the job. If there is any feast, any birthday, anything, they will just abscond. There is no, if you commit somebody that you will be producing and giving, and your person doesn't land up that day, you are in a soup. So that kind of reliability we are not finding. Even in pharma, see, they operate 12-hour shift. And the machine needs a second person, otherwise first person is not relieved.
Okay.
That kind of committed working environment is not there in Goa. Their priorities are first Jatra, birthday, and then the work. It cannot, see, the business cannot run like this.
Okay. Projit, I know you've been keeping quiet for a long. I'll just ask you to hold on for a minute because I'll get Purva in it. Purva, you have been a professor. I mean, you've been teaching also in one of the village-based college like Kepe. Purva, what is your thought on it? Why do you think, why Zatras and fests are more important to Goan students than actually working? There seems to be a little trust deficit when it comes to students. What do you think is your opinion on that?
I think this is more of a sociological and cultural ethos. We've been known to be Sushagad and those adjectives are stuck to it. But I think as education sector, we also need to pitch in to somewhere bring in this entrepreneurship spirit in Goan youth.
Okay.
So if maybe if the industry also hands holds and we coordinate,
Lovely.
right from with the industry academia interaction, I think right in the graduation onwards, we got to impress this on the youth that they can be, we can also place role models before them who have organically grown.
Okay.
Instead of just, looking at government jobs, who have in fact left jobs. Like Kutskar has left a job to start his industry.
This is something I also experienced in Arunachal Pradesh. A similar question was always posed by the youth. I did not see ambition. I did not see a vision for themselves. So that is, and that cannot be addressed, trust me, at this level, you in the college level trying to, instill a certain kind of ambition. It has to go to the school level. And a certain middle class value system.
Right.
An ethos, like a business ethos, industrial revolution hua tha and everything. Protestant religion, it brought that in, like he had mentioned. So ethos, middle class value, we were brought up ragado, rat race, clear the examination. So we are not homesick. So I say that I'm not homesick. I can work for 12 hours. I can work for, the work has to be challenging and inviting. So I think that needs to be deliberated to a more deeper level, a social level, educational level, and cultural
Than
level.
at the MBA level.
Yeah.
The reason I've asked this question is because, again, this human resource problem also tends to add a lot of unease in doing business. And so therefore, I just thought, Prudent, coming to you. Prudent, what is your take on this entire startup ecosystem? Do you believe that Goan startup ecosystem actually is conducive for the youth who is sitting behind to get up and say, look, Nilesh sir, I'm not interested in a job, do not look out for a job, but think about helping me, hand-holding me and starting an entrepreneurial venture?
Right, so a good question there. I think there are two reasons to this. One is the reason why people choose government job is for one simple reason, is security. There's this job security concept which is there enclaving the entire thing. And the counterpart to that is taking a risk, right? So a lot of, no offense to anyone here, I completely, at least 80%, 90%, I feel there is a disconnect between what a student wants and obviously what the parents want them to do. So there is this cultural misfits. As far as starting up in Goa is concerned, two of the biggest challenges obviously is human resource, right? The HR. I coined that term slightly different. I don't call this as HR today. After pandemic, I call that as culture. So you don't want the 9 to 5 work. You want people to be retained and valued. I think that accreditation to them, hey, you've done a good job. This is our culture. You've got party. So a lot of companies today are, embodying this entire structure in the startup. So as you mentioned about startup, culture, the points that you mentioned, birthdays and celebrations and all the jatras and all of that. Now that's part of the startup culture within. So what you do is the celebration is a little bit of noise. You have, we are driving through not just economy, but a content creation economy. So you have got access to digitization, which is Facebooks, the Twitters, the Instagram. So the noise is out. So once you get featured and you get that extra bit of cheese on top of what you've been doing, that point comes into place. But the other factor I mentioned earlier, right? The good part about pandemic that has worked in Goa, the Goans, and I've seen this trend after speaking to at least 50, 56 founders. Now there is Goans who are demanding the salary hikes.
Correct.
That never happened. So now you're talking about real CTCs. Which is a great, so it has really worked in Goa. So now you have a Goan who probably had 9 to 5 offers back in 2008 is now demanding that, hey, Bangalore and the Punes and the Mumbais are paying that much. Can you hit us there? Now, obviously, that comes with the negotiated skills of the candidate. But yes, opportunities are there. Retention rate increased in the sense that you have to, besides hiring, there is rehiring concept which is coming in. But overall,
Yeah,
I
but
think
Prajot, again, you're looking at again from the employee perspective. I'm not looking at it from an employee perspective. I'm looking at it as a startup, as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Do you believe that the ecosystem that exists in Goa today is conducive towards nourishing, towards bringing the growth in these startups?
Yeah, so yes, there is this no to that as well. So yes, I would say is that's because if you're talking about startups, and I would primarily mention them IT and IT enabled services, right? There are ecosystem that are favorable to that. Let me give you an example. You brought up this wonderful example of staying outside Dempo House and you see everything which is probably you take a photocopy of years back and it's not the same. You have travel startups which tell you the importance of Goa. They take you on a nice trail. They explain you what the Goa is. You understand and inherit what Goa was earlier. Now that's how a problem solution can be found out. Now there's the other side to that is if you have too much of over dependence on why my papers are not getting cleared, why is it taking time on that? I think these are petty questions that can be only answered when you have a local hero. And I would rather say that, elite panel and the audience that you have here, they have been there, they have done that. So it's a simple matter of an email or just getting and taking an appointment and getting in touch with them.
Yeah, but the problem with what you are saying again is a part of our culture. They believe that Lata Mangeshkar became Lata Mangeshkar because she moved out of Goa. Had she lived in Amchitti, and then the thing would have, so probably the local mentors are somebody who are not really valued because Amsatta.
Yeah. So there is another, that's a very good point actually. So I think I'll tell you from my student life, I used to reach out to every person at least a week. So how I do it, I use this concept of getting in touch with a new person every day. So you tend to reach out to someone, they probably will not, it's like a sales job, right? No one is going to reply to your email probably 5 or 9 times. After that, they're going to reply. So it's just reaching out to them. Someone might not really have it. It's worth a try though. So I would still be very, very clear on the fact that maybe there are no opportunities here, maybe they are not favorable as well. But I think there are local heroes, they have done it in every field, right? So it's just a matter of understanding the history. Why do we need to take an example of, say, Lataji for that matter, right? We have local heroes, they have been there, they have done that, they have created a history, whether it is in financial services, whether it is in infra tech, whatever it may be. So I think it is a matter, and in the other side also, they also need to be approachable, right? There is this, I've seen this happening, right? So it's a different thing when you go out, the meetups that happen in cafe or, in the normal hotel, what you call in Mumbai or Pune. Here, there are so much of barriers. So it's a request to, eminent personalities over here, make that open because as a student, anyone who's starting out probably, all you say is the part-time gigs that they do, they need a little hand-holding and nothing better than go on hand-holding.
Lovely. So I'm coming back to Nilesh again. Nilesh, you are one person who not only has to fight the ecosystem, the policies, the ad hoc strategies, but I think within your sector, you also have a government to compete with. Because for some reason, I see a lot of investment that government tends to do in tourism. So government is basically, trying to compete with people like Ralph Sir, people like by opening up hotels and things like that. Purva, how many GTDC properties do we have? We looked at was...
No, the concern was amongst the properties GTDC has, many of them are simply kept closed. And prime properties of GTDC, properties of GTDC are on the main prime spots where it comes as a big surprise how they are making losses.
Government should not be in business of doing business. And Goa government has understood that, and I think they are trying to privatize or do on PPP model for quite some time. And again, on this topic, on ease of doing business, it is not only as an entrepreneur or as a business guy we face it, government also faces big time. Panjim property, Miramar, it has been leased out to one of the best brands for 5-star hotel. And they have been struggling for licenses for almost last 3 to 4 years. There is one gentleman in given for property development somewhere in Anjuna. For last 6 or 7 years, he has paid the advance for the lease of 40 CR and is struggling for getting licenses. Now, with whatever may be the reason, with this type of thing, it looks difficult for anybody to invest in the government properties or think into that. Because problem is we don't have interdepartmental communication, which is lacking big. I will give one small example. GTDC had floated a tender for doing in the Kalangut property a spa. So one gentleman must be from North India, from where he came in, saw the opportunity and opened up the spa. Now, in that basic structure, it may not be possible. So it was said that you will have to wooden structure and do it. So he started applying, said permission, when GTDC takes the lease licenses, but his permission is your headache. It is a government property, but headache is of that guy. His government is taking money, but licenses they are not giving. So he started applying licenses. So meantime, it was taking time. So he said, one of the rooms I will develop. So he put in 14, 15 lakhs, redid that place and started operating and started paying the lease. Panchayat refused him the license. Now, as a government thing, you are a government body, it is their duty to get them the licenses, which they did not do it. Worst, so after a particular time, he says that he defaulted on COVID time, whatever with the licenses, everything. So government started saying that you have defaulted on a license, so we'll encash your bank guarantee and we'll put the penalty. Now, this is the way if we are going to operate. Then there is no thing to it. In fact, this is how we work. So the challenges are plenty, but I think we have to have like people within Goa. We find many people wants to do business with the government. One of the reasons is this, because they realize it is really challenging in Goa. As far as the employment is concerned, I would like to bring one point. In Goa, also there is a lot of aspirations also. Everybody has aspirations. Now, Goa has seen the opportunity with the Portuguese passport to go and work abroad. So what we are seeing many in the hospitality sector and travel sector, even the ITI students or any of the one-year institute, they take that diploma or whatever, work for 3 years in any of the star hotels and they are absorbed by any of this cruise liner, or if you see anywhere, any cruise liner in the world, you find maximum Goans either in the kitchen or in the service. Similarly, with that opportunity opens up, they are able to work anywhere in Europe. So similarly, we see the aspirations of our neighboring state, maybe from Odisha or UP, or for that matter Nepal, coming and they see opportunity in Goa and they come. So, it is that aspirations which, people take outside, each one of you to outside their, their zone. And ultimately, if we are able to provide that aspiration in our own state, I think people will not move and we'll have people retain the people working in Goans working in Goa.
Single window clearance, for example, that we talk of. I think it's one of the most mocked at schemes that is there of IPB. You are a CEO, you are at the helm of affairs. Why is it that people have to kind of get into so many issues when they get into Goa?
See, I personally feel that the concept single window, so it started and then it gained traction, probably it was more or less thrusted by the central government. I personally don't feel a real need for a single window.
You don't feel a need for it?
So like we're talking counterintuitive. What you need that if I come and apply for a license, I'm easily able to apply either physically or online. We do online things for transparency and accountability. That is what the only thing that an online system guarantees. Not easy, not faster, no. It doesn't guarantee that. It guarantees accountability. कि मेरे पास application आई है तो online दिख रही है, my superior can pull me up. So that can be simply done by an MI system as well. The entire application doesn't have to be online. So we also need to analyze.
Sorry, I'll just disturb you. So the transparency is more from the government side. So if I have applied for license, I don't know where it is.
No. Both ways.
Achha, I can track. Okay.
Both ways. You kind of get a intimation also कि किस stage पे है, कहाँ है, किसको delegate हुई है, कहाँ पे फंसी हुई है, and all of that you know. But the more important thing is कि whatever manner that we follow, it is a single window, it's a double window, it's a triple window. First thing to ensure is that हम अपना process देख लें, उसको evaluate कर लें, कहाँ पे bottlenecks हैं, and then we digitize that process. We have gone blindly in so many ways. PCB, you wanted PCB to be here, I know why. Because when you start digitizing some very difficult form in an act without even thinking what is relevant, what is not applicable, everything zero bharo, nil bharo, NA karo. I think
just to get those points, those many points, as you said, this entire thing is run by the central government's guidelines. So we don't look actually what we need. And we are not that clear about how we, create this ease of doing business. Everybody has to be brought together and work out.
The point is calm hona chahiye.
Correct.
You should
Yeah.
be able
Right.
to do something you want to do in a reasonable time frame. Now, this is also an unreasonable expectation that today I thought of an idea and tomorrow, But yes, government should not evaluate what is a lucrative business. We should have thrust sectors. I don't believe in it personally. We should not evaluate. It's a business person's risk, like he said. Let him see what the market needs. I should not be telling you, okay, ये business ठीक है, इसमें ये problem है. Yes, when we help you, some financial backing we should see that will you be able to finance your project? I think that is where we should limit ourselves.
And we have to decide on the overall what we want. As far as government is concerned, we decide this kind of industry we
Ma'am,
want or this kind.
Correct. So,
That's all.
ma'am, could it also be because there is every possibility that people who are working in the government sector, for instance, okay, I mean, so I'm just asking you this because is there a possibility that people who are working in that particular office, they do not understand the law themselves properly? So for instance, I'll give you a practical case that happened at IPB some months ago, where there was a company that wanted to go for approval, but did not get an approval because they were told that you do not have a land of your own. But the point was, the fact of the matter was they were actually on a sublease. They did not have enough land that was required to do that. But then, without looking at the fact that they were actually on a sublease.
No, I think
I'm talking about a very small issue, but something like that. And this
there must
could
be a little more to that. See, again, like what he said, you need to have 3,000 square meters or a project above 5 crores. So now we have removed that land. It's limiting. We also want to do away with any kind of amount or any kind of land requirement, because then people will start fudging. So we don't want to, ideally should not be telling. So at the government level, yes, I wouldn't say that they do not know the law. Some might not, but most know and really stick to the letter. Okay. There might be instances where interpretation is required, where we need to make quicker decisions, to be more facilitative. That might be the issue. There might be issue of motivation. So that's another topic completely. And
ma'am, one of the things that I really want to always know is, if I want to start a business, why is it that I have to see the face of a MLA? Or why is it that, ma'am, I want a Ladli Lakshmi scheme and that I have got to get a signature from an MLA, or I've got to go to a politician to get my thing done? Why can't I just fill in a form online and then I know that my job is done?
so yes, ideally, yes, that is what we are also trying to aim. And recently there was an announcement in the newspaper regarding TCP. I think most of you might be privy to that information that we'll go for deemed approval. So yes, taking power, delegating power can be another thing, but at least what the system is should be seamlessly implemented and should be operating. I think that should be the first step.
Because yes.
Let me tell you, there is a solution to this, which we have missed. And the solution comes from something that is already existing here. This is nothing but enforcing the Goa Rights of Citizens to Time-Bound Delivery of Public Services Act of 2013. We have an act that spells the time, the modalities, and the facilitation of all the licenses and clearances required. And this has to be enforced. If this is enforced, half your problems will be solved.
So actually people have to start using this.
I think we have come to an end, but before we really close, I want to give just 10 seconds to each of the panelists sitting out here, and I will give Ma'am Swatika, because I think you are the lone defender, and I think we must first give a big round of applause for her. It's not easy. It's not easy, because when you know that there are going to be a lot of fingers that are going to be pointed at you, not only standing there, but standing strong and defending everything and being candid in what you're doing, I think is itself a hope for every single person sitting under this roof that achhe din probably are going to come. So I'm going to give you a last word on this, ma'am, but before she takes the last word, 30 seconds to each one of you. Do you believe it's going to be easier? And I'm asking this question to you in front of Abdul Bab. Is it going to be easier doing business in Goa? And if yes, what is that one thing that you want to see happening in Goa?
I'd in fact like all stakeholders to come together and in a participative way work towards the happening of ease of business in Goa.
Lovely. I think that's a great suggestion to each one of you sitting out here. Prajot.
I think a lot of potential in IT companies in Goa. The best suggestion that comes to my mind is make it easy for them to get the initial onboarding, swift. That is only possible. There are companies, startups that can help government. So instead of scouting out for people outside, locate for the in-house resources. I'm sure they will help in return, and then work together to make sure that the difference or the turnaround time of making this process happen reduces or becomes zero.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Damodar sir.
What I would say is, rather than relying on government or anybody else to do something, let's all make it happen for us. We know.
Thank you so much. Yes.
I am optimistic. In the last 2 years, there are two things which, on ease of doing business, with the help of government, we were able to achieve. One is excise license for 5 years and tourism license for 5 years. So I think if we are continuously pursuing the things which are required, and ultimately it is for each one of us to decide how to go about and how to survive in this ecosystem. And I think if we work together, and I think government will have we need to support ultimately if everybody focuses on the one direction. I think that is only way forward. And as far as again, when we are talking about this easy to do business in Goa, I think that is way forward in employment generation. That my thing is clear as far as that is
Lovely.
concerned.
Thank you so much. Yes, Ralph sir.
Yeah, a couple of things in 30 seconds. One is 3 of us are on the board of IPB. And 3 of us are going to help Swatika Sachan. She's not alone here.
Lovely. So we see a change happening.
We were listening to her. She was never alone. We were there on the background in case something was required, but she didn't. And we are trying our level best to work along with her to ease everybody's life. That's one. And what I had said earlier, all this will be zero if that one is not before the zero and it becomes million. That is implementation and enforcement of Goa Right of Citizens to Time-Bound Delivery of Public Services Act of 2013. It was passed. It's kept dormant. Let us make sure that this is active again, and the chamber has already taken this as one of its prime agendas and will do it.
Thank you so much, Ralph sir. Ma'am, as I just told you, the stage is yours.
So yeah, I'm on the other side of this question basically. So the one thing that would want to happen, we all know the problems. We've heard the industry, we've had consultations. It's not that now we do not know what is to be done. At a personal, professional level, I would say if the things on my agenda, even 60% of it, I am able to at least formulate in terms of policy and processes. I think that would be a great achievement, and that would be my target there. And however, everything, like I said, a rider, that there are a lot of pulls and pressures. We have formulated, we have already documented a white paper about all of these issues that were raised here. And we have already presented it to our political bosses, and now I need their help so that it just goes through. So I'm hopeful. I think good things are there to come.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for your patient hearing. And as you saw this, it was beyond just the ease of doing business matrix. So it was basically a concept which we tried to deliberate on. We tried to brainstorm. Thank you so much. And before I end, like we ended up with a very cohesive kind of a note. I'm reminded of this beautiful song penned down by Sahir Ludhianvi, which was picturized on the superstar Rajesh Khanna, which said, "यूं तो अकेला ही अक्सर गिर के संभल सकता हूं मैं, तुम जो पकड़ लो हाथ मेरा, ये दुनिया बदल सकता हूं मैं." Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for this beautiful morning. Thanks a lot.